Hey, John Gilroy here. Website developers talk about meta descriptions. Digital scientists talk about meta tags. Today, we will discuss digital transformation with a company called Metaphase. Hit the music, Manny. Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, a podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator. Our guest today in the virtual studio is Brian Funk, Chief Technology Officer of that company we just talked about, Metaphase. Now, this is not going to be a big surprise for you, Brian, but a lot of change going on in Washington, D.C., a lot of change in the tech world. I try to keep up. I have bookmarks for federal sites. They've all changed. And so what we try to do is your company has a very good reputation in the area here for helping out agencies and working with companies to maybe figure a way through tough times. And so what I want to do is maybe view this from 40,000 feet and say, hey, Brian, you've been beat up and knocked around. So what are best practices here in a rapidly changing environment? So, Brian, give us maybe a thumbnail sketch of what Metaphase does.
Yeah, well, thank you, John. Thank you for having me. I joined Metaphase as CTO in early January, and a lot of change since that time.
I'll say.
but that's really why I'm here, right? My focus is on bringing radical efficiency to the federal government. And really how Metaphase does that is the combination of meeting the mission with the technology. So I'm always excited about the missions we support. In my time in federal government and supporting various clients, various agencies, had the opportunity to work in just the most unique, amazing missions. It is what makes this industry special. There's just no other industry that tackles the problems at scale like we do. And to be able to bring technology to bear on that and really we're deep into this LLM revolution. We're well past the ChatGPT moment. These tools are now widespread. They're now FedRAMP. They're in use today and just incredibly exciting. So, what we're doing at Metaphase is looking at how can we bring these unique capabilities to bear in a way that is truly efficient, right? So, we talk a lot about efficiency, but what does that really mean? It really means driving down costs in a tangible way. And that's really our mission here, right? How do we help federal agencies serve their customers, right? Meet their missions while driving that cost down through radical efficiency.
Yeah, the reason I reached out to you was because I saw some awards or some rapid growth for a lot of people, and maybe it was at an event and someone said Metaphase or something, and it's interesting that you operate in many different areas, and you kind of fit in with a lot of my previous guests, and I just hit 6,000 connections here on LinkedIn. Most of the people are tech companies who deal business with federal government. They're looking to partner with someone, and so I'm going to have you put on your consultant hat, but consult to other similar companies to yours, maybe specialized in Salesforce or specialized, oh my goodness, for mobile management. There's so many categories here, So what advice do you give these technology leaders for coping in this world of policy uncertainty?
Well, it really starts with being, lowercase a agile, right? Being able to adapt, being able to be flexible. I think that's one of the really unique positions that Metaphase is in. We have a large customer base for a company our size. So we support over 20 different agencies across the federal government. That's in national security and civilian and financial services. And really that breadth has given us a view of what it takes to do transformation, right? And true transformation, which keeps a focus on the mission while driving that efficiency and that cost effectiveness. Frankly, it's tough for, some of our competitors, right? It's kind of similar to the innovator's dilemma. There is the incumbent's dilemma. If you are working a contract today, it's hard to change. I get that. How do you go from a $100 million contract down to a $75 million or $50 or $25 million contract? That's tough, right? Those dollars are actually people, but when you're looking at true efficiency, you really only get that with actual productivity, and that means replacing human labor, right? I mean, if you look at other sectors, right? I mean, agriculture. Agriculture's had radical efficiency over the last 100 years, right? 100 years ago, it was something like 40% of Americans worked on farms, and today it's less than 2%, right? That is a sector that has had radical efficiency and transformation, and that's the same level of transformation we should be bringing to the federal government.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Christensen's book because it's a classic. I think everybody should read it. Let's apply that to the federal government. Or maybe this concept of disruption is being applied in the federal government right now. Because if you start looking at executive orders on artificial intelligence, well, guess what? The older ones have changed to new ones. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I submit to you Exhibit A, which is the latest EOM 2521. And it seems to me when I read this, and it's, I don't know, 30 pages or something, you know, they seem to be shifting from the old way to do things was make sure it's secure. And the new way to do things, I think, is a big focus on innovation and maybe not worrying as much about risk. So from your perspective, does this make sense? Good transition, bad transition, or is it even an accurate transition?
Well, I don't think it's a either or, right? I think it's and both, right? We can provide real efficiency, right? So we can do more with less. We can provide real velocity. I think that's really what these executive orders are really driving towards. How do we increase the speed of delivery, the speed of mission? And I think that's just critical. And we can also do security. What's interesting, I mean, everyone knows the most vulnerable part of any system is the people, right? When you look at any of the major hacking scandals or major vulnerabilities, there's a human element, right? It's very often just old school phishing, right? Someone giving out their password to someone they shouldn't, and that's a problem that actually can be solved by removing the humans, right? As we get more efficient, we actually can get more secure. It doesn't have to be an either or, and there's a lot of great movement towards that. Really excited to see some of the changes coming out from different thought leaders across the government, things to 20x the FedRAMP process, right? How do we really accelerate that? How do we really just overhaul the FAR or these ATO processes, which are just taking too long? So I think it's really just driving towards that efficiency and that velocity. It's something, in the software development world, we've talked for a long time. I mean, this is a concept that's decades old, the 10x developer, right? Your top developer, your top engineer is 10 times more productive than the average engineer. Well, these tools, right, the large language models, these Gen AI coding assistants, they're adding an additional multiple on top of that, right? So we're now seeing, and there's published studies that are 20x or 35x. So you take your top 10x developer, give them a tool that makes them 10x. I mean, you're talking 100-fold increase here in the amount of productivity. And that's just what we need to bring into the government, and really exciting that the government's embracing this and change is happening.
Brian, my son-in-law just got a PMP, and I twist his arm. You got to put it on your LinkedIn profile, man. It's a nice little stepping stone. It's great. And he's going to get a bunch of other ones after that. And you brought up the topic of workforce. That's why I brought up the PMP here. So, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of workforce disruption going on here, And so how does that impact current programs that are going on?
Well, it's just going to accelerate delivery for mission, right? And some of these programs that, you read about that have taken years or even decades are just going to get done in months or even days and weeks. Just as an example, I can give you. So we recently responded to an RFI from DHS. So DHS component was doing market research, looking for a technical solution and a cost estimate for a new public-facing website, kind of the standard web development requirement. We actually, initially put together standard response. This is a 10, 20-page response. But partway through doing that, we realized we can just build this. We can actually just build the entire application. And so instead of submitting that written response, we gave the government the fully working application, all of the code, fully open source and available to use. Now, maybe it's not going to be used. Maybe it just is a prototype. Maybe they can use that or give that to another contractor to complete it. But this is the type of productivity we're really talking about. It's doing away with these multiple $1 million contracts to build something that and take years to deliver and jump through hoop after hoop. We can actually just build things.
I mean, put on your college hat here and think about 20 years ago. Then this would have been just hit you over the head. What are you going to do? Give it to them? This is really the innovation that Christensen talked about. You brought it up initially. This is not a little. This is drastic innovation. You talked about 10 times 10. I think this is just meta is a different meta way of looking at things. It's fascinating. I went to your website and I saw some press releases. Looks like you're partnering up with ServiceNow. One of the best interviews I did this year with a guy named Jonathan from ServiceNow. Really solid work. So good partner for you. Where do they fit in this whole game?
Yeah, well, very, very proud of our ServiceNow Elite partnership. We actually just won the Consulting and Implementation Partner of the Year. So exceptionally proud of that partnership. You're probably familiar with the executive order for using COTS products in government. Mm-hmm. I think platforms are a critical component of this radical efficiency. The capabilities that ServiceNow and other platforms have is absolutely incredible. And again, it's simply about delivering for the mission. We were able to earlier this year, in a very rapid way, right? I mean, literally in 2 days, built a new solution for one of our customers to actually be able to track and manage the deferred resignation program. We were then able to take that to some of our other agencies, be able to demo that, show them, and those type of capabilities that maybe a year ago even would have taken weeks or months. We're doing in days or hours here. It's very dramatic, and partners are a key part of that. Of course, you got to have the skilled practitioners. You got to have the people to actually operate those, and the partners do a great job of certifying. The very rigorous certification programs to ensure that their partners do have that talent. But partners are really critical there. We're rapidly expanding our partnerships. We recently became a partner of Windsurf. So Windsurf is a AI-powered coding assistant and tool. It is FedRAMP. It's actually FedRAMP High authorized. So in use in the federal government. And those partnerships are just going to continue to grow and expand. But a key part really is how do we take the best of technology, wherever it may be, and deliver that to our customers so they can deliver for their mission.
Now, just put this in perspective. Let's say you're an auto mechanic, and you're looking at this, and I explain this to you, and say, look, so a year ago, Brian had no idea what deferred resignation. Where did that come from? That wasn't a topic. It wasn't a thing. You'd probably talk about the Nationals, I talk about all of a sudden, snap a finger, dime. February, we got to come up with a way to handle this. Well, how do you do? This is kind of a showcasing flexibility. I think that's what it is. I think that's it. So I got a little shelf behind me. You take this off that shelf, a little ServiceNow, a little bit of this, maybe the 10x that, Windsurf, put it together, and all of a sudden you can handle something brand new, never even thought of before, was it?
Well, if you're talking to a mechanic, you got to make sure you're talking to a mechanic that has tools, right? That has the capability.
Never thought of that. Yeah.
Maybe has a garage even, right? and that's really what I've been focused on at Metaphase, is making sure we're empowering our employees, our people, with the tools so they can meet their mission. To that end, we have a ChatGPT enterprise license with OpenAI now. We're rapidly expanding our own internal tools. We have a new Orange AI accelerator suite. So this is a suite of 12 accelerators that really enable the full life cycle of any program, whether it's rapidly writing user stories and acceptance criteria to automated tests to infrastructure as code. We now have a suite of accelerators that really enable our people to deliver quickly. Again, that velocity is what is needed to have true transformation here. And so we're building that out. You can learn more about that on our website on metaphase.consulting.com. But that suite of tools and just empowering your people is what's going to be critical here.
And I'll put that link in the show notes. It's METAPHASE consulting.com. I wrote that word flexibility. I'm going to the gym later on today. You can go to the gym and you can just work on bench pressing 300 pounds, or you can work on flexibility. And a lot of people say if you work on flexibility, you can reduce injuries. And a lot of pro athletes are really thinking that's more important, flexibility. But I'm thinking, that's what Brian Funk, you should have Brian Funk, PhD in flexibility. I mean, this is what, it's just a matter of being willing to know what's new, when to, at what point in time to adopt, when to look at it. And it's just, there's so many things. If I were a college freshman today, maybe there's a course in flexibility or adapting or a wide range of things, because this is what you're taught. It's like all that stuff you learned in college. Yeah, that's great. But this comes out of nowhere. I don't know how do you train that? How do you take staff and train that? Is this a gift, or is it just people are naturally curious?
Well, you got to surround yourself by just great people, and I think it does start with focusing on the end solution, right? And focusing on the end customer, and really focusing again on the mission. It's what I keep going back to. If you don't understand that, it really doesn't matter what tool or technology you bring to. You got to actually have a passion for delivering to the federal government, to your client, whatever your client is. Their focus needs to be your focus. The technology is right. Again, it's just a tool, right? Going back to your mechanic analogy. I mean, there's a lot of tools out there. In fact, sometimes multiple tools can get the job done. But you have to know what problem you're actually trying to solve, right? And so I think first and foremost, surround yourself by people that are passionate about the problem you're solving, right? About the client. That has to come first. In some ways, the technology, that's the easy part, right? I mean, and for me, that's the fun part. But you got to actually have the people that care, and then when you empower those people with the right tools, it's amazing what can get done.
Let's talk about people. I've known a few people in my life, and some people will look in that lake and just jump in. Other people put the toe in. Another person just run away. And so you have people are going to jump into technology as well. And so I see. I mean, theoretically, there may be people in the federal government who are jumping into AI kind of willy-nilly without realizing some of the implications here. And when you talked about earlier in this discussion about your gradual acceptance into ChatGPT and its maturation, I mean, I think this is one of the biggest problems with artificial intelligence. I think there are used to be called shadow IT, or maybe people misapplying it. But I see this happening. Have you seen this? And I think that's one of the strengths of a platform. Platform may force someone in to have those guide rails to not, I raised Tina, not do something stupid. So what about these guardrails on using AI?
Yeah, the shadow usage is absolutely there, right? If you don't think your team or your agency or your contractors are using ChatGPT, they are, right? I mean, and what's important is that we make sure they're using it in a safe and secure way, right? That's one of the reasons we built out our Orange AI suite of accelerators, is to ensure that those tools do have the guardrails in place that are really needed. But I'll say, one of the ironies I'm really seeing right now in GovCon is that basically every company is using Gen AI. They're using ChatGPT for proposals. Basically, every single proposal now is substantially written by Gen AI. And some people are better at hiding it than others, and they know to remove the emojis. But it's a real irony that in the proposal process, right, to win contracts, everyone's now using Gen AI, and sometimes the government's even using it now to evaluate proposals. But then in delivery, actually doing the work, very few are using Gen AI. Very few have found a way or know how to safely use AI in the federal government. And so, we're at this strange place where, the government's now evaluating these Gen AI written proposals when they should be evaluating how we can actually deliver Gen AI into the government. It should almost be reversed. I mean, the government, in some ways, should have a much more human evaluation process, do more orals, do more live in-person tech challenges to see the people that are going to deliver, and then rely more on AI in that delivery, right? Actually accelerate delivery of the mission after the contract's won, not just using AI before it's won.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I both have heard of the software development lifecycle. Maybe this is the AI development lifecycle. First jump in, make mistakes, then think about guidelines, and then wait a minute, what about keep the end in mind? And so it's a jump. We saw this 15 years ago with the cloud. Just jump in. Well, wait a minute. It's expensive to leave. And now people are having some experience. I think there's going to be stories written next year about what happened in the previous 2 years with maybe some data being released that shouldn't have been released, and then people have to go back to maybe aspects of security. So let's get the crystal ball out here and look down into the next few years. Is there going to be a reaction to, I'm sick of this fake stuff? I'm sick of this. Maybe it's human, actually face-to-face interviews and saying, okay, Brian, what have you done? How can you help me? Do you see that taking place? Or it can't be AI versus AI, like spy versus spy. I think it's got to be more humans in the future. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's going to be more conversations like this, really talking about how we can solve problems, what the problem really is. With our business, right, in federal, it's really what is the will of the people, right? What is the priorities of the administration, right? What are just what's the work of government, and that requires people, right? It's not, we don't have AI voters yet, right? We don't have AI representatives yet. This is still a very human civilization and human business, and I think that just becomes more important. In some ways, I do think this is going back to, maybe how things were almost pre-industrial, right? Where people were much more central. We've kind of gone through this interesting phase where technology somehow became more of the focus, became more in your face, right? And now it's literally in your face with, holding a screen in your face or in front of a screen most of the day. But I think as AI is able to take over more and more of the tasks and it's going to really just drive that efficiency further and further, it means we'll have more time for actual face-to-face interactions and talking about, the direction we actually want to deliver. So I'm very hopeful. I'm very excited. I think there's some of this work that is being replaced is not really the great work, right? It's I'm a software developer, by trade, by profession, and sure, I've written many lines of code. Is that the fun part? I mean, building solutions is the fun part, right? Actually solving problems is the fun part, and if you can do that faster, even better.
Nice optimistic close to this interview. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, Brian Funk, Chief Technology Officer at a company called Metaphase, Metaphase.